And what's going on, everybody? Another episode number 50 of We Are Family Pittsburgh Sports Podcast. And we have a special guest joining us today, Nicholas Harry Callas.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today on a milestone episode. We didn't even coordinate that it would be on the 50th, but I'm glad it turned out that way.
I'm happy to be here. I just found out 5 seconds ago when you said it.
Yeah, I know. I forgot about it until just then, too. I think we all did. And just want to get right into it. Tell us, your story a little bit, how you came up, where your passion for sports and maybe being a producer comes from. Where did you go to school? Things like that.
Boy, so let's see. So I started, baseball's always been my favorite sport. I picked it up when I was 5 because that's one of the easier sports I think you can get into when you're in your youth. You just, try to swing a bat, hit the ball. The adults are pitching to you. And I kind of fell in love with it, too, over time because it's like a different sport, right? Like you got your football where you got to find the other end zone. You play basketball, you got to find the hoop on the other side, soccer, all that stuff. So baseball's like, here's a diamond, hit the ball as far as you can and then run. And then the fielders have to throw the ball in relation to the bases. It's just different. And so as I grew older, I got into announcing. Like my dad was a PA announcer for our local teams in Greentree because that's where I grew up. And I always found that fascinating. I would run the scoreboard next to him when I was 7 and 8 years old. If I wouldn't make All-Stars, I would be up there with him, and he would announce the All-Star tournaments. I'd be the scoreboard operator. Eventually, I got into announcing. I also was an umpire as I got older into my teens. I would umpire, so I knew the rules of the game very well. I knew how to talk about baseball well. I got into the announcing part of it from a public address standpoint, for youth kids and stuff. And so all that mixed together, one day I was talking to my guidance counselor, and I was just like, well, I want to talk, and I like to argue, but being a lawyer seems like it might be too aggressive. I wanted to be a lawyer for the smallest bit of time, but I never thought I could argue for people's lives and livelihoods and stuff. So I was just watching TV. I was listening to the radio. I'm like, people can talk about sports. People can do play-by-play of sports. So I pursued camp at Waynesburg University with Lanny Fratteri, and it was great. And I loved it there so much that I went there and I committed there. And 4 years later, I got out of college, found my way to 93.7 The Fan after doing some volunteer stuff and some volunteer work for charities and for public access stations, etc. And now I've grown to be full-time with The Fan doing the morning show with Adam Crowley and Doran Dickerson.
Yeah, so how long have you been doing that? How long have you been full-time now?
So I've been full-time since officially, July of 2024. So it's been over a year now. There was a little hybrid period of time where they were making some big transitions at the station, and so I was alternating with Austin Bechtold, who eventually got promoted to do Pomp and Joe now, as it stands. But yeah, the transition started in June of 2023, where we were kind of alternating. And so sometimes I like to say that I started in June of 23 because that's when I actually got into the rhythm. But the official time where I started doing the full 5 days a week was July of 24.
And can you talk a little bit about what it means to be a producer, kind of the things you do kind of behind the scenes? Because I know people know the surface level, but there's just a lot more than that, Yeah,
you're right. So I didn't know what producing was when I first, you look up job applications and you think what is a producer? They don't really spell out, they give you duties, but it's what does that mean? To me, when I would think of Hollywood, I would think it's you produce, you make decisions on shows and whatnot. And I'm like, could I really do that? So when I got into it, it's really just about how can you run an audio board and make sure that all the sound is playing as it should. There's faders, right? And so there's audio sources on a board where there's faders that you can control and make different sounds happen on different sources. It's really complicated to explain, and I don't want to go into all that because I know it can get confusing. But you answer phone calls. I'm in charge of podcasting, which is you just cut clips of a show that are interesting based on the whole 4 hours that a show is, and you upload that, and you make sure that that gets up so people online can listen it back in any time, and they can consume us no matter what time it is. We're in charge of certain aspects of social media, so we have to post videos, or we have to post quotes from the famous people that we have on or the reporters that we have on, so that people can know what's going on. And it's pretty much just, to summarize it in 1 or 2 sentences, you are commanding the show and making sure that you're making decisions so that people can find it interesting to consume. And however you do that, whatever clips or moments you choose to highlight, and making sure that fans can interact as well, whether that's online or over the phones. It's just making sure that you're commanding the show in a way that people are going to find it interesting and want to relate to you and keep coming back to listen.
Now, I have a question. So, talking about your experience at 93.7 The Fan, like when you came out of college, like did you know that this is what I wanted to do? I wanted to be a radio producer, or did it kind of fall in your lap? And how did you get in? Because it's not like there's a whole lot of those jobs, out there in bigger markets like Pittsburgh. How did you be able to get that kind of job?
Yeah, so my main goal is I love doing play-by-play and public address announcing. So those kind of go hand in hand. That's what I want to pursue as well as I continue. But producing I got really lucky, but I also like to say that I put myself in the right place at the right time. So when I got out of, when I was still in Waynesburg, I did an internship with Bethel Park Public Access Television. So they just needed people to do whatever needed to be done with cameras, video editing, etc. So I started interning there, and I stayed afterwards to volunteer because I loved it there so much, and I loved the people that I worked with, and it was really cool. While I was an intern there, I got on this show called Pittsburgh Sports Line. It's the live show that they do every Tuesday, and that's how I kind of got my talk show flavor. It got me in front of a camera. It got me needing to think about interesting things to say. And this was during COVID, I want to mention as well, so it was difficult to talk about sports. I started there in November of 2020. So it was like there weren't always a lot of sports to talk about because everything was still very watered down because of the time that was. So it was difficult to find an internship, no less. But through this sports show, there was a guy on there that loved me and loved my personality. His name is Jim Frazier, nice man. And he said, Nick, I need to introduce you to this guy who works at this charity. He's, I think that we could use what you know about social media and camera work and stuff to help us out. While I was there, I guess I did a good enough job because then the head of the charity was like, hey, what do you want to do for a living? I'm like, I want to do sports talk. So he said, let me make a phone call. It was Larry Richard who called me a few days later and said, Nick, this guy says you're the real deal, and 93.7 The Fan needs a producer. Would you like to come on part-time? And I was like, oh, my God. Well, he didn't ask me. He didn't offer me the job. I do want to say that. He said, do you want to interview, pretty much. So he helped me fill out the application to apply for the job. Then I had to get the interview. And a month after I interviewed, they said, you're on board. And here I am 4 years later.
That's a great story. It does connect to the networking and the connections you build through these internships. That's why they're so important. We're going through those kind of right now. These internships, getting these connections because, some guy may know a guy who could put you in a position to, make a career out of something.
And I can't emphasize that enough because the facility director at Bethel Park Public Access told me, we were just talking one day, and I was like, I kind of want to stay. This is fun. I genuinely enjoy the art of production, whether it's video production, audio production, what have you. So he was telling me that interns a lot of the time would just get their credit and go. And I told myself, I said, I don't want to be that guy because anybody can just get their credit and go and try to pursue exactly what they want to do. And they can have, I don't want to call it a selfish mindset, but people just like to sometimes have tunnel vision to, what's going to benefit me the most. I took it from the stance of, let me just hang out here for a little bit. It's a nice place. I get along well with people. I'm improving. I get to be on a sports talk show once a week. And staying there and volunteering was probably the best decision for my career. And at the, against some of the recommendations of my family members who were scared, they were like, Nicholas, you got to find a job. You got to find, my mom was real scared. She was like, you got to find a job. You got to get paid. And I told her, I said, you got to trust me. This stuff doesn't just fly out of nowhere, and I wanted to make sure I established myself and was different to that facility director who told me everybody else just does this. I wanted to be a little bit different, and it turned out that this guy knew this guy who knew this guy who is known all around Pittsburgh, Larry Richard, who does, KDKA radio and does a lot of Panther stuff.
Yeah, Larry, he's a great guy. I met him one time, and he was just a great person to talk to. And he's a great voice. He has a great voice. The voice of Pitt Panthers, and and Steelers too. So I mean, he's a great person. Do you have another question?
Yeah, just to follow up, like, I mean, I guess you kind of already answered this by saying what you're talking about different connections and staying the course, putting in the extra work, even if it's not, even if you're not making profit off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But like for students like us or a lot of our peers like to watch this podcast, like if you're wanting to get into sports radio, like what is the biggest key, whether that's as a producer or, you know, an on-air person like Fillipponi or, well, producers are on air there too, but
See, that's difficult because if you want to, let me think about how to answer that, because Bethel Park Public Access was not sports specific for me. You've got to work and find something that you enjoy and where you can fit, because you want other people to be able to say, you can talk about yourself all you want. You can say, look at me, I'm great, hire me. The best recommendation you can get is feedback from other people who tell other people, hey, this guy's worth investing your time or your money in to do a job. So I knew I wanted to do sports broadcasting, but I needed to fit somewhere first. So if I had a recommendation, how do you want to start in sports talk? Find somewhere you fit. Enjoy doing the things that not everybody's going to want to do. I want to be a host, too. I mean, I'd love to be a host, and I do a show at 5 a.m., and I'm blessed to do that now, too. I didn't expect that to happen. The morning show producer does a 5 to 5:40 slot, which was awesome for me. You know, and I didn't even expect that to happen as part of the producing gig. You have to fit with the people in the atmosphere first before you can expect to get things, and not even handed to you. Like, you have to earn your way into getting those roles. And the way you earn getting roles is getting people to like you. And people will like you if you work hard and you're willing to do things that either not everybody can do or not everybody's willing to do. And whether that's in a sports job, whether that's in a news job, whether that's whatever it possibly could be, find a fit somewhere and work up from there.
Jake Bell, you have any questions? Or?
No, oh, absolutely. Since you're getting involved in sports, you tend to meet some guys that maybe you look up to, or maybe famous athletes, some famous personnel. Like obviously Pompiani's a big one. Have you ever gone awestruck, or have you been able to maintain a very professional sort of tone whenever you meet them?
Yeah. So for me, this is where I'm a little bit different too, because sometimes you get fans who think, this is cool. Me, I never really sunk myself into it's cool. What I do is cool. But once you're there, you just realize that you're talking to people. Adam Crowley and Doran Dickerson I interact with every day. They're just people. It's not like I'm sitting there going oh, Doran played football. Like Doran, he'll still, tease us and do stuff, or he'll come by and he'll poke me and he'll scare me and he'll be like, haha. And I'm like, he's just a dude, right? Like, this is just what he does. Crowley is as stubborn as he is on the air as he is off. I mean, he's just a guy, right? And when you realize that these guys are just people, like we're all just people. So you can kind of remove that, fanboy, I think, type of mentality when you just realize, hey, you're interacting with people. They're all just human beings. They're not these, athletes can do special things, but at the end of the day, we're all just human beings. We all get up, we eat, we work, we sleep, and when you get into that rhythm and you realize that as you get into the business, it's not really hard to maintain the type of a professional relationship, because you're just interacting with people as you are, yourself.
So I had a question. You talked about Crowley and Dickerson, who you work with. They're the on-air people for the after your slide. I didn't even know. I'm not up at 5 in the morning.
Not a lot of people are, yes.
But that's a great. I didn't even know that. So that's great. But what is that preparation? You said off air that you get there 4 a.m. a lot of days, and you got to. What is that preparation like? You give them. Is there like a rundown, and you have to prepare and stuff for how you want the show to go, and how does that kind of work?
So it's more like a team effort, I would say, because Crowley's been in radio for years now. I mean, and Doran has also been in radio for way more years than I've been. So it's like I'm working with two mid-30-year-olds, and I'm in my mid-20s. So I'm not going to sit there and be like, hey, talk about this. That's not my job. My job is to take what they want to talk about and enhance it through social media, through the podcasts that are released, through my own comedic relief. I like to think of myself a lot as like the comedic relief on the show, because sometimes you need that jab of just like, oh, look, Crowley, you're being silly, or oh, look, Dorn's being Dorn, and whatever. And so that's kind of my role as I see myself as a producer, while also adding in some analysis as it fits. Or like if they're arguing about something or they're talking about something, then I can add in, do a little quick internet search on my computer right in front of me and say, hey, actually, did you consider this? Because here's a stat that I found. It's not so much about me like preparing what they're going to talk about. When I go in there, there's a set of sponsor reads that we have to get done. Businesses that we love that pay for that, for that advertising for them to read things. But other than that, I give them that, and then Crowley makes his rundown. He has his ideas of what he wants to talk about. 90% of the time, that rundown is not followed to a T, because we just talk about stuff. And it goes back to that point, too, where I talk about, like, we're just people. We flow with the conversations as they come. There's always a plan, but there's not a hard, stead plan, and there's not one person saying, hey, talk about this. We just go with the conversation for 4 hours and then go home and do it again the next day.
Yeah, so I don't know, that's a great thing, because it's kind of interesting. I have my own radio show, and I think Peyton to start his
I'm
as well.
starting one, yeah.
And you have like a little rundown and everything, but like you said, that makes a lot of sense.
You should absolutely prepare every time, and Crowley is prepared, and Dorn's prepared every time. It's just a matter though of like, it's using the preparation and feeling the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I completely understand, because I have like a little rundown that I have, but I almost never like follow it, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to do this, talk about this for 15 minutes, and then I think of something else with that topic, and then you talk for another 10 minutes about something. So that's really interesting. Jake, you have another question?
Kind of like, or sort of bouncing off like kind of that regard. Like, have there been times where you guys have been very heated during conversations, and maybe that led like after the show where you guys are still a little bit angry?
Oh no, never. Nothing carries out of the studio. When we're done, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
I would say during the show, I'll let my feelings, and I know Crowley and Dorn will do this as well. We'll let our feelings be a little more enhanced. We'll say like, okay, there was one time where Crowley told me that I couldn't have an opinion on college football because I only played D3 baseball. And that bothered me. Now, in a professional social setting, I'm not going to let that bother me. He's him and it's fine. And I don't think he would have even said that if it weren't on the show. But sometimes you say these things, and I let myself get the right amount of frustrated. And I went off in a way that nobody ever heard. And you need to do that strategically too, where you harness that emotion and you communicate it effectively, because it's still radio too. So people can't see us. So I need to make sure that I'm speaking, not yelling, but I need to make sure I'm speaking, and I need people to feel in my voice why that frustrated me. So I went off a little bit, and I was like, hey, listen, you were a coxswain in high school. You rode. I don't want to hear you tell me I played D3 baseball. The last time you played a competitive sport, you got ice cream after the game. And that was like a notorious line, right? People laughed. Doran choked up. He thought it was funny. But it's that right tone where people go, oh, crap, he's serious. Like, oh, gosh, like he's serious. Like Callas is actually frustrated, because that's not my personality. Nobody hears me get frustrated a lot. So it's playing the right role to entertain people. That's my genuine feeling, was that I was frustrated. But it's like, how do I also make that entertaining for people to listen to? And that was the right time. I was like, hey, I'm mad at you. Here's a quick quip. Here's something funny that people can relate to, because we know Crowley's not athletic. He's a scrawny guy. And it's just a way to make it more entertaining. It's using your genuine feelings and communicating it in a way that's going to be interesting for people to listen to.
A main takeaway, bouncing off when you say the word entertainment, like when I listen to 93.7, I listen to Pony and Muller a lot, because in the afternoons, that's when I'm, going places or wherever. And it always just seems like, and on social media, there's a lot of stuff going on social media with the fan. It just seems like the environment, the work environment, is about creating entertainment and having a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Because, yes, you want to give sports opinions, but like everyone can give sports opinions. What makes that interesting? And I feel like 93.7 The Fan does a really good job of making it fun and interesting, and so people can interact And like you said, like you were being serious in that one instance, like that catches people's attention. So like, I mean, do you feel like when you go to work every day, like you're having a good time, like you're having fun because you're trying to create entertainment?
Right. And I don't even think it's about like creating I enjoy what I do because we get to sit down and we get to meld our lives into sports talk. I wouldn't even say it's entertaining because, I mean, I feel like we're naturally entertaining because we're just ourselves. Like we bring out our best selves through our voices on the radio. I never thought of it that way though. Like, do I enjoy just getting up and entertaining people? I don't necessarily directly correlate those two because in my view, we're having a conversation amongst the three of us and subtly there's thousands of people listening at one time. I think I just get up and I enjoy working with those two, and then as the other people call in or text in or use our chats or however they interact, I think it's just really cool, not necessarily to think of myself as an entertainer, but it's just cool to think like I get to talk to all these people and have some serious conversations, some whimsical conversations, some fun conversations. I think I just love the art of talking and communicating in a way where like people want to listen, whether that's entertaining or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it just seems like everyone just is having fun and enjoying themselves, and like everyone seems to get along with everybody in the best way possible. Like everyone argues with each other, but like it's all in like good fun, and I think that's what makes it a good product.
Well, I learned this in college because there was one guy at Waynesburg who was on a TV show, and this was like my light bulb moment for me. He was a Philadelphia fan, and it was a basketball sports talk segment, and he said, this was like, mind you, 2018, 2019, he said, the 76ers are winning the NBA championship. They didn't, and they didn't get close, but everybody started arguing. And that was the moment I realized, I'm like, you know what? Is it always a fun time for everybody to just sit around and sing Kumbaya and agree? And it was like, you know, the Steelers played terribly yesterday. Oh, you know, I think so too. Yeah, you know. That's not interesting. It's fun, and I love doing this naturally, which might make me good at sports talk, is that I love playing devil's advocate. I love asking questions and finding different angles. Even if you find the same answer after asking certain tough questions or certain questions that may seem obvious, it's always fun to figure out, like, okay, if I look at it from this angle, do we still get the same answer? If we look at the Steelers' offense versus the defense, do we still get the same answer that both were bad? Is there a certain player that could have done better? Is there a certain coaching decision that could have been better? We might use those conversations and still get to the same answer. Yeah, the Steelers were bad. These were bad decisions. There's blame to go around. But it's finding those different angles, I think, and sometimes asking those questions where you're not all agreeing and you're all saying, well, let's make sure we consider everything from every angle.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think debate is good. I think it is entertaining. I think it's fun. I think it does allow you to think of like all the different perspectives that there could be. An instance like me and my buddies here, where James Franklin gets fired at Penn State, and it was funny. Like I was all along with everybody saying he deserved to be fired, you know, this and that. But then I was like thinking, like, well, what if he didn't deserve it? Like, what if, like, you know, he built a pretty good program, you know? What if you know, like, even if it's a opinion that like nobody holds similar, it is like an interesting perspective and an interesting exercise to kind of look at that. And similar to that, I want to talk about the Crowley like Dickerson dynamic, because Crowley's a West Virginia guy, and Dickerson obviously played at Pitt. He's a Pitt man. And I think it does like add something to the show as well, especially when there's that college discussion. I want you to kind of talk about that a little bit, how that kind of adds to the show.
Yeah, so it's awesome because Pitt and West Virginia don't always play each other in football anymore, and there's going to be a hiatus. There's so much hype around the game that's played when it's played. When the backyard brawl exists, there's a lot of good publicity that comes around that, and with Crowley's fandom of West Virginia, I think that it's really cool because you get his perspective on the rivalry. As dumb as we may find it, because I'm a Pitt guy too. My mom and sister went there, and so I've always rooted for them in my lifetime. But it's interesting to hear that perspective, and also when the game times come, when the backyard brawl is here, like it's been the last few years, it pumps everybody up. to know that he roots for them because they can try to dunk on him, they can, taunt him and tease him, and he's still got that unique perspective. So I think it's awesome because you just add so much more hype to a game that should get national attention all the time. That rivalry should get national attention, and it doesn't anymore because if you've listened to 93.7 The Fan, I don't know how conferences work. I'm not a big fan of college football because everything is so confusing. There's so many teams and so many things to follow, and it makes no sense to me why Pitt and West Virginia couldn't be playing consecutively throughout, why there had to be these giant hiatuses. It's awesome that it's coming back in 29, and it's going to have, 8 years or so?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's nice because when the games exist and he's the West Virginia fan, that you can be hyped up for college sports because you have his perspective and you have him as one person against a bunch of Pitt fans because we're the Pitt flagship.
So was that plan, like having the sort of West Virginia versus Pitt dynamic, or did it just happen? You guys were like, oh, well, let's roll with it because it's pretty entertaining.
No, he went to West Virginia. He's been a West Virginia fan. That was just coincidence. It works out to be entertaining because of how the conversations go, but I don't think that decision was made intentionally. Mm-hmm. I think Crowley was just good. Doran was just good. One day they were able to become the two main hosts, and it's just a dynamic that existed, and now it's exploited.
Oh, wow.
So I want to ask. Well, I want to dive deeper into some of your moments and experiences. I mean, you've only been there for 3 or 4 years, but you become one of the more known names at 93.7 The Fan, and there's a lot of fun stuff that has happened. I first want to ask, because I think you maybe had just referred to this, but I know that they do a segment on the show, on the morning show, because I see like YouTube clips of it, called Quiz Callas.
Yes.
I want to hear your thoughts on Quiz Callas because, they ask you some questions, you don't know the answers, and people are like, how did Harry Callas not know the answer?
So I like it because it was starting to hold me accountable to sports talk. Like, to bring you behind the scenes a bit, Crowley and Doran have wanted me to become more of an on-air presence, and I was never really confident in doing that right away, as silly as that may sound based on how you know me now. Like, I wasn't always confident to go up there and because I was afraid of making mistakes. Quiz Callas was a nice opportunity to just completely exploit everything that I may or may not know and give me an opportunity to also learn. And that's the opinion that I've had on it is, I can learn what they want me to know while also having a segment that's unique to me. It's also, there was just an experiment one week at the beginning of this year, and it was our highest rated segment of every Thursday for months.
Wow.
And so we kept doing it. Like, it wasn't a plan to keep doing it, but we saw that, with our statistics, that the numbers were really, on our streams were peaking at that time. And so at first I was a little bit like, oh, this is terrible.
Right.
People, I might be losing credibility among the people. But the more I did it and embraced it, the more I'm like, yeah, it's entertaining. This is my job to be entertaining. And they have a point. Maybe I should be knowing some of these things. College football, I will never get. College sports, that's what Doran has found now because I got some Steeler questions
right. And they get you on that.
They get me on college sports every time. Because I've never been privy to college sports. So again, it's a way for me to learn, but I take it as it's entertaining. It's something that people want to hear. And so I'm okay embracing the opportunities. And some weeks I do well, some weeks I don't do well. Either way, people listen. And ultimately, it's fun. It's a good time.
I want to talk about kind of piggybacking off what Peyton was asking, some of your funnier moments. So I want to talk about first this. What was this ghost situation? I saw you were you like a haunted house and there was a ghost. I saw like a clip of it one time.
Wasn't it on a TV show or something? Yeah.
So Bethel Park Public Access Television, like I said, I took it very seriously, and I stayed on as a volunteer there. Even after I got hired at the Fan, and they eventually gave me a job, which was awesome.
So this was through the Bethel Park television.
So I was still a volunteer, though, at the time. It was 2022. And this guy named Bo made a show. He was a ghost hunter. So he would go to different places that he thought were haunted places, and he would try to find ghosts and find evidence that ghosts existed in these places. So me as a volunteer, he needed help. His crew couldn't make it one night. He needed somebody that could come and know how to run a camera and do the technical aspects of that show. So I decided that I'm like, all right, I'm a volunteer. I'm dedicated. I'll come with you. Why not? We went to this abandoned slaughterhouse that these people had turned into a haunted house. So by day, it was this like fun, like, haha, it's scary. You know, walk through the rooms and find the puppets or the actors that are going, bah, you know, and scaring you. We went, though, at night when nobody was there. We stayed there from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. in the dark. I was curious about this one room because I actually felt cold wind surrounding my ankles. It was a room with Bible pages, and it was like a swirl design. So you would walk in this circle, but you'd eventually get to the center. And the closer I got to the center, the colder it got. And Bo, the producer, the host, thought it was interesting, so he took the camera and filmed me walking through these rooms and walking into this room with the Bible pages. Put a scan on me. Apparently, there was some energy surrounding me that he could find. Apparently, he went through it's an enhanced frequency sound machine that can like pull through different waves and try to find afterlife spirits or voices that apparently were telling us to get out in terms. So, I mean, that was probably the scariest thing I've done in my life. I'm a risk taker. And so, yeah, I mean, that was a volunteer opportunity for me to be a production assistant on a ghost hunting show that turned into me being part of the feature because this room was speaking to me in some sort of ghostly way. Pony and Muller figured out that happened. They were like, what? You went ghost hunting on this show? Like, it was on YouTube. And so they called the producer, and the producer spoke about me on the air, and then it became a story on our website. And that was actually the first feature that was ever written about me on 93.7 The Fan, was my ghost hunting adventures.
Like, some of the stories they have, it's so funny. Like, you know, you go to the website for sports information, then all of a sudden you see a story about Harry Callas and a ghost. Now, did you believe in ghosts before this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that even enhanced your belief then. Yeah.
I believe in spirits. I believe there's something after this life.
Yeah.
And I believe some people are still kind of in between. They can still find their way to the real world from the afterlife. So it's scary.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a crazy. I just remember, like, I think it was. I think it was in the summer, but it was before I met you when I first saw this on 93.7. And I just thought it was. I'm like not somebody who's a ghost person. Like, I actually believe kind of, because like I see these paranormal stuff and I'm like petrified, and I'm like, I'd never go to haunted houses. Like, that's not my thing at all. But I like believe from what I've seen. And so that was just like a really cool thing. And I remember, like, you were like the focal point of something, and it was like, yeah, get out. It was like weird, like, it was like a weird thing, like, you have to leave, like, get out, you know. And I was like, is this real? Like, what is going on?
Well,
here?
Bo did a dumb thing that I didn't appreciate. He's holding this device that's sensing this energy. It gives you a visual of what's surrounding stuff. And he's just going, oh my God. Yeah. But I can't see what he's looking at, and I don't want to move. I'm like, what? Is there something on me?
Right, you don't know what's going on.
Exactly. He's like, oh my God. I'm like, and I just stood there like freaked out because it was happening to me. Like, it was happening. Like, I swear, this situation was going on, and I could just sit there like frozen, just like, what? What is happening? What is happening? Like, I was just sitting there like frozen, like, what is happening? Because he wouldn't tell me. He's, oh my God, just 5 times. Say something else. Am I in danger? Do we need to get out? Like, do we need to start moving?
So, yeah, at one point I saw too, like, you guys were like, I thought you were leaving. I saw you guys like making a beeline out, and then you're like staying there. I think it was the Bo guy that was that the guy that was like with you? He was like next to you on the
thing.
Yeah, and then if I'm remembering this right, you like closed the door on the one point. Was there like a point where they shut the door, or they left you there?
Yeah, no, it was terrifying. I mean, it was a lot to take it.
I didn't know you were there, what'd you say, 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. So it wasn't just a quick, 15 minutes going in this room and then
No,
going
I mean,
through.
they left the figures in there, too. I mean, there was this goat head skull just on this body, and I, it was right by the exit, so sometimes I'd run into it. And I'd be like, get me out of here. Like, I thought this was supposed to be kind of fun. And no, ghosts are no joke.
Yeah.
So this is a basic question, but I'm not exactly sure, because you're Nicholas Callas, How did, because obviously there's the great announcer, Harry Callas. He's on your Twitter thing. It says, I'm not to be confused with the great announcer, Harry Callas. But how did the Harry Callas nickname exactly come to be? Because I'm not 100% sure, just to clarify with the viewers.
So, Andrew Fillipponi and Chris Muller, that was the first daytime show I ever did. Like by myself, produced. And I was also an engineer back when I first started for remote broadcasts. So I would go out with them sometimes too, when they would go to the casino or if they were at like anywhere remote. Like I would be the one in charge of setting up the console and making sure that it was connecting to our studio. So they were having me do announcer calls. They knew I loved baseball and I liked doing play-by-play. And they were asking me, I think once on the air, they were like, "Are you related to that guy?" And I said, No, we spell our names differently. There's absolutely no relation. And they said, "Well, that's your nickname then. We're just going to start calling you Harry Callas because we know you want to do baseball play-by-play for a living." And I've always embraced that. Sometimes people don't embrace nicknames very much. I embrace it because now I get to tell that story anytime anybody asks because they don't know. They're like, how does Nicholas relate to Harry and whatnot? And are you related? And I get to tell them, like, no, I'm not related, but I do want to do baseball play-by-play. So that's how I got the nickname.
So I kind of want to bounce off that real quick. Speaking of sort of baseball play-by-play, is baseball your favorite sport to like talk about like during the season, or are you more like talking about the Steelers? Because I know that's always going to be a big topic.
It depends in relation to. It just depends what story is most relevant at the time. I would prefer to talk about baseball. Football is obviously king, and the Steelers are king of this town. That's no secret. They are the most interesting a lot of the time, and the NFL just garners stories. They milk out stories 24/7. I would prefer to talk about baseball, but you really only get to talk about baseball when the Pirates are on. Once football season comes around, once October hits, it's like, all right, we gotta talk about football. So if you're asking me what I would prefer to talk about, yeah, baseball's my favorite to talk about. And man, people would even get frustrated with me, like on the early morning show that I do. They'd be like, "Why are you talking about baseball now? We got football. We got these stories." And I'm like, I don't care. It's my show. You want to listen, it's fine. But no, and in most scenarios, I will try to find what's most interesting and then talk about that. But I know the most about baseball, yes, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So similar to baseball, so I did the NWLA tournament this year for the first time. I didn't even know like what it was until they were looking for like other people to do some play-by-play for it, and I was like, oh, this sounds like a great opportunity. And you were the lead one. You did the championship game, and throughout the weekend, it was like there was a bunch of games Saturday, a bunch of games Sunday, and then you wait a little bit, and it's the championship. So how long have you been doing that? And it's very unique, like the wiffle ball, like a lot of the rules. It was kind of funny, like some of the games I did, like there was not a strike that was thrown for like a full game almost. Like how was that like preparation initially? How many times have you like done that, and is that like a fun thing for you, like because it's a unique thing? And I really liked it for my first time doing it.
So we got to go back a little bit because like you, I was in college when I started. A guy I knew in college had a contact who was running the tournament, and there's a whole backstory, but long story short, the tournament had come to Pittsburgh because of COVID, right? We're in 2020, and they were looking for somebody to do their championship for play-by-play. And as this particular person was searching for people through his contact, who's Jake Davey, who is the commissioner when the tournament's in Pennsylvania, they recommended that I do play-by-play because they knew how much I love baseball. So I didn't know anything about wiffle ball. I didn't know there was professional wiffle ball. I mean, these people are legit. They're throwing hard. There's a whole different set of rules. And so I spent 3 days on the website looking at the history of teams in the championship, looking at what the rules were, and looking at the two teams that would be playing in this championship because, I mean, this was the biggest deal in the world to me. I mean, like seeing how legitimate it was, seeing the official rules, I'm like, man, I better show up and know what I'm doing because I don't want to look silly. Like this would be a bad thing. So it was 2020. It was Facebook Live, and I was so apprehensively prepared. It was a Facebook live stream at the time. They've since upped their broadcasting tools so it looks more professional. But back then it was just a Facebook stream. It was real light. But I remember there was no commercial breaks. my mentality told me I need to fill the airspace no matter what. I need to fill the time. And I just remember I was so prepared. I was talking about the bracket, the teams. I was giving certain nuggets on players. And by this, we're 2.5 innings in now. Somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, Callas, we're going to mute you. Take a break. Because I was talking for like 40 minutes straight. Just, hey, here's this information and that information. So I was super prepared. And I guess Jake Davey was impressed by that, and he knew how professional I was, and I appreciated his acknowledgement of that because he asked me back for the local championships in 2021 and 2022. And by 2023, when the national tournament came back to Pennsylvania, they had done a deal with ESPN Plus, and he gave me a call, and he said, we want you to be our ESPN Plus play-by-play guy. And I almost broke down in tears. I was like, that's so cool. ESPN, right? Bang, big time. So that was cool, and I just did it ever since. I mean, he and I stay in contact, Jake and I do, and just from one opportunity of making the most of that one opportunity, I get to come back and do cool stuff. So,
Yeah, when I first heard about it, and I want to thank Jake Davey as well for giving me that opportunity because I really enjoyed it. That was like my first like real experience with like play-by-play in baseball, and I want to get in more of that this year with Point Park, but it was just such a unique thing, and I think that actually maybe for you as well, like the preparation, it almost made you want to just prepare like so much more, and you were better for it because like if it was just a regular baseball, I know baseball and everything, so maybe I wouldn't have been nearly as prepared. But yeah, like the week before, I spent like the whole time like just going through all the rules because it's so unique. Like obviously there's more balls, you get I think 5, and just the fields are smaller.
They have
and
a
all
strike board. The umpire doesn't call the
right,
strikes.
the board.
You have to hit a board that looks like a strike zone
there's
behind
no
the batter.
there's just the strike. Well, there's like field. They have like field like rules people.
Yeah.
Like on the sides, but there's no like ump like right behind it. And there's like and that it was really interesting. And I was like shocked at how fast they were throwing like the wiffle ball because like you play in your backyard and it's you're trying to throw it hard, but and it's curling and everything. It's like I was throwing before. It's like impossible to hit the board like if you don't have a lot of training and preparation.
The irony of it is that a game that was designed to dilute the complexity of baseball has become complex itself.
Yeah, really. I mean, it is crazy. So, no, that was really neat, and getting to see like that semifinals and the championship. I mean, it was those teams were really good, and those pitchers like it was. I saw like 98, 90, like 100. And I was like, no way, like that can't be real. And it was. I mean, we were right behind it,
Yep.
Under the 10th, and it was just insane. So
I think it's only from 48 feet away, so it's pretty close. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean-
3 inches farther than Little League mountains.
if you got a good pitcher, you're not getting any hits or anything in the game, and that's what we saw. It was like 0-0 like the whole time until late at the end there. So that was just a great experience. I want to thank Jake Davey for that as well for me because that was a tremendous experience for me. I hope I can do it next year and in the years to come as well.
I
But
think what's so great about the professional wiffle ball is like if you have the resources to do it and you have a big enough backyard, you can create a wiffle ball field in your backyard.
Well,
Like I've seen that. I've seen like videos of that and stuff.
You're thinking, the people from Indiana, they called it the dirt yard. It was just in their backyard.
Yeah.
Like the field was in their backyard, and that's actually the reason that it was moved to Pittsburgh was because the family during COVID didn't want to have all these people, all these teams in their backyard, literally.
Oh wow.
So, I mean, that's a great point. That's a good little nugget there. Like, yeah, I mean, you could just play in your backyard, but there's actually a field that like somebody owns in their property that they use for professional games. I mean, it's so cool.
Wow.
it really is. I want to get into we talked about it a little bit before, but you ran for office recently in Green Tree where you reside, and it was interesting because I remember watching and listening to 93.7 at the time, and then you were like there was a hiatus there with you like on air especially, and then you came back because people were saying where's Callas, like where is he, and then you kind of had to address it like for people that don't know, explain kind of what that whole process was like.
Boy, that's a heck of a story. So I worked in Bethel Park, right? I eventually got hired there, and one of my jobs was to help on the productions with the council meetings. Like I was the primary production assistant that would do those, and by doing those enough, I caught on, and I was like, okay, this is what they do. They vote, and they say things, and they look like good leaders, as far as I could tell. I don't live in Bethel Park, but they look like they know what they're doing. Then there was a controversy in Green Tree where they were restructuring our pool. And if you know anything about Green Tree, we love our pool. It's very nice. It's been around for 60 years, but they needed to reconstruct it because the foundation was bad. Council wasn't receptive one meeting, so there was this group of people that got a bigger group of people together and said, let's go to a council meeting. And I was curious because I was like, okay, I've seen how Bethel Park does it. How does Green Tree do it? I mean, Green Tree has council meetings. I've never been to one. Just a group of people, everybody's, chanting, pause the pool, don't decide anything yet. We need to talk about this, right? Like just all these chants. And watching how Green Tree handled themselves, that council, I was like, I don't really like that. I don't really like how they're doing it. And that's my own personal opinion. And I kept going to meetings from there. And the more I went, the more I'm like, even the non-intense days, like where people weren't chanting, it was just like more boring, more procedural. I was still just like, I don't like how they're doing this. And so my mentality has always been, if I can help it, if I can change it, let me try to invest myself in this. So I got together with a group of people, and we all ran on a similar platform of just like, okay, let's advocate for the pool, let's advocate for better leadership. And so I went through all the paperwork that got done, and my name was on the ballot. Well, shortly after the last day I could withdraw, there was a complaint that was filed somewhere, and that was just like, why is he on the air? And I can't disclose who or what or where.
Do you have an idea? I know you can't disclose. Do you have an idea of who it was?
I'm not going to say.
Well, I'm not going to. But do you think you know?
I can't say. I can't say. So we're just going to leave it there. I can't say. But
fair enough.
It was, so my name was already on the ballot, and there was something in our company's handbook that was like, you can't run for office. And I overlooked that. Thank goodness I'm not a full-time host. I can produce without talking. So that was what saved me in that case, or else I think it could have gotten more complicated. But nobody caught it because nobody had ever dealt with this before. Like, I was the first person, I think, in the history of Pittsburgh's radio to run for office and try to be a media personality, which was unique. But the argument was that if I have airtime and I have a resource that my opponents don't have, that's not fair because I could sway an election, which is a fair rule. The FCC having that as a thing is a legitimate thing. But I didn't know, and nobody knew, and nobody told me personally. It was just like somebody made a complaint. It got the attention of people way higher than us. And just to be safe, they said, hey, just don't talk about anything. Don't talk at all. Just wait till the election's over, see what happens, and then we'll go from there. I lost by one vote in the end.
Oh, geez.
which was tough. I was one vote away from qualifying for the general election. But, I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's not a big deal. I actually would rather talk about sports than run for council. If I had to choose between the two, and at that point I had to choose between the two, I probably would have withdrawn anyway, too, even if I won. So, I mean, it's not a big deal. For me losing, people say, but it's totally fine because I still get to do what I love which is sports broadcasting and sports announcing and hosting and producing and stuff. So, but the story behind it is, that because of an FCC rule, I could not talk for until the election was done. So
you were at work every day, still producing.
Yeah.
But you just weren't on the. You just didn't talk because I saw stuff on social media like you weren't even there. Like you were skipping your job for 3 weeks, and I was like, that doesn't sound right to me. That doesn't seem like a real thing.
So it was people's speculation. Crowley and Dorda made it clear that I was still there. I just could not be heard on the radio. You even still saw me. Like, I would play around because people on our YouTube chat would say things like, Callas, you're not really there, haha. And then I would go out on camera and I'd wave because YouTube's not regulated by the FCC. So I could say, hey, look, I'm on the internet. And people would laugh, and I would play around with those guys on the chat, and it was funny. But yeah, no, I was just there in the background. There were even subtle things where, do you guys know the Mark Caboli intro that I sang? Like the holy moly, it's Mark Caboli. Ever heard that?
I didn't even know that was you. That's actually really
I didn't know that was you. Yeah. We love Caboli.
Yeah.
Folks, he's a politician, a producer, an on-air talent, and a musician.
Well, do you guys remember
all in one?
You remember the diss rap I made about the PM team?
No.
I think that rings a bell. Rings a bell.
We'll have to go back later. But yeah, no, I did. So one of the things I do is I write music. Like, I enjoy music. I come from a musical family. And so one of the things that I did to be unique was I'm like, guys, look, I can write music. Crowley and Doran did not trust that at first. And then one day I was persistent with Crowley. I'm like, let me write this music for you for this diss track that you want to make. Because it was back in 24, there were some things going on where diss tracks were like a thing. They were coming out, and we wanted to be on that trend. Crowley let me write it, and they were impressed with how I produced it, and they're like, okay, you know, do that more often. So one of the things I did was Caboli is one of our most frequent guests, so I wrote him an intro. But to link that back to Council, while I was off the air, I had to take my lyrics out, and it was just the music track. It wasn't my voice.
That's wow.
It's that.
Yeah.
It was that ticky-tack.
There was like, I don't know how much of it was just like in fun. I think most of it was in fun, but there was a lot of like banter between you and some of the coworkers on the fan as to, you know, like, was there any like what's the word? Animosity over like were the people at the fan like maybe some of your bosses like not happy with you about this whole thing?
Oh no, everybody was very supportive, and they felt it was interesting. Like it was a unique story to cover because, like I said, I don't think anybody's ever done that before, and nobody knew how to handle it. And I think I've set a precedent for everybody in Pittsburgh radio. Like, if you're going to run for office, here's what you need to do. We didn't even think, like, nobody even thought, because it was more like the mindset was, if you're running for president, if you're running for Senate, you can't have this. Nobody thought, oh, this is Green Tree, you know. But because the fan is heard in Green Tree, that's a resource that my opponents would have the right to as well if I got airtime at any point. So nobody was upset. There was no animosity between anybody. They were very supportive of me running, but they just told me, they're like, we can't, you know, we don't want to show any signs of bias because that would be a bad look for us. And I totally understood that. And at the end of the day, I want to be a sports broadcaster, not a politician necessarily. I just wanted to do it if I could. Circumstances have dictated that I can't, and I'm totally fine with that. I don't mind how things have turned out because I like my job, you know.
That's a nice feather in your cap though. Like, ran for public office, you know, too. Like, you're very versatile here, really. Fabian was saying.
So, well, that's part of it too. And I mean, I guess to circle all the way back to, like, you know, how do you get involved in sports broadcasting? How do you get involved as a media personality? My thing is, I'm very unpredictable and very passionate about anything and everything as long as I'm interested in it. And so you said ghost hunting, right? I went ghost hunting because why not? I did Taekwondo for a day, and I kicked the board down, right? Like, that was.
Oh, you know, I saw that this morning because I was looking at some of the things of it, and I saw that you did a Taekwondo thing.
Right. So I mean, there's that. I write music, right? I write music. I write raps. I can write lyrics. I'm musically inclined. I ran for public office, right? So there's all these things that these guys can look at and go, I owned 3 cars at one point in time, right? For a couple years, I had 3 cars in my driveway, just mine, not including my parents, like just mine. So these things that are interesting and the things that people can play off of, the more questions that people want to ask about me and the more that people want to know about me. I mean, you guys didn't want me here for no reason, right? So there's some interesting value in me, and there's stories that I can tell, and there's experiences that I have that I think give me an edge as opposed to anybody else who's just like, oh, I just want to do this just because. Like, try to be interesting and try to do things that not everybody would want to do, and that's partially what I do is you know, just the passions that I have in life can be amplified when we have conversations on the radio.
So before we go any further, I do want to talk about kind of what it's like on the Fan Morning Show the day after a Steeler game, whether they win or lose, especially when they lose, though, because we talked about last night. We're recording this Friday. Last night, the Steelers lose to the Bengals in a game. A lot of people said you should win, your favorite. You got to win that game. And Mike Tomlin's never good on the Thursday night. So in the back of your head, you're like, could this happen? But obviously, we were talking earlier, like, so fans are not happy. What is that kind of like? It definitely seems like it is like a fun time, though, because you got these callers, they're fired up. There's some animosity towards the team. There's some blaming and some, and we were talking about some screaming from people who are usually kind of level-headed.
Yeah, so post-game reaction is always what I would consider an easy day, just because everything is fresh. There's not a whole lot of angles that you need to explore right away. It's just a matter of, okay, what's the obvious thing that went right? What's the obvious thing that went wrong? Who should we be holding responsible? What aspects of the game should we be holding as like pivotal moments? And then we just let people call in and talk as well. And I even posted a video today onto social media of some callers that we have. There were a couple in particular. There was this guy and this lady, very calm demeanored, very respectful people. And the guy called in, and it was hilarious because he always very calm, always very rational. He just started going, and he was rational in his point, but the way he delivered it was very entertaining. He was like, and you know what? I don't care who you throw the ball to, but Jamar Chase, when he has 15 catches and it's crunch time, I don't care who else they throw it to. Cover that guy.
I remember hearing that. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. And then Angela, the other lady, she calls in all the time. She just, Adam introduced her. Hello, Angela.
Yeah. The
guys,
pain.
This is rough. Just sad. I was just like miserable. And I'm like, man, people are depressed. Like that made me sad. Like Crowley couldn't hold it in. I mean, he just started laughing. That was just a noise we've never heard before.
Doran Nickerson, he was kind of like, staying low key. He was smiling, but Crowley, he was just like this, and he was like, you can see like off the video. It was so funny. We were, and I think, at least for me, I even commented because I was just like, that Angela, she's like everybody, like in that instance, like after that game is like, oh my gosh, they did it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it has to be like, is that like your most fun time though? Like after, like even though it's like sad, like the Steelers lost, like doing those like reaction like the day after, like because like with the Pirates, it's an everyday thing. The Penguins, like there's not really like football is like unique in that it's a weekly thing. There's not nearly as many games, so there's more emphasis on each game.
Yeah, so those usually, it just seems like people are more interested in those days because everything's fresh. And football is very strategic in depriving us of consistent games, right? You get a game a week. And we all get a treat because, we got the Thursday night feature this week, so we didn't have to wait as long. And then the Steelers get a little extra, like, de facto bye week. So, there's a little extra treat. People care a lot more when the primetime features are around, it seems like, too. And so, but it's not only that. I mean, I think what also makes people inclined to express their feelings like they did is because it was Thursday night. Sunday into Monday, you got 1 o'clock games. It's not like there's a feature. Like you watch the game in the afternoon, and then there's plenty of other things to do during the day. Even 4:25 is reasonable enough where it's like if they ever did play a 4:25 game, it's you still have enough time to go to sleep. Think about it. People still have to work in the morning. You guys still probably went to class, didn't you? You guys had classes today, right? Point Park?
No, Point Park is unique, actually. So
Yep.
unless you're a COPA student, which is our
Dance and
theater, which is Point Park is known for, only those students have classes on Fridays.
Oh my
gosh.
So
I was at home and then I came in for this and so
I got to work a shift today. So I'd rather do that. It was nice.
Okay, well they didn't have class, but I still had to work, and a lot of Pittsburgh still had to work. So I think people were extra kind of feeling depressed because it was a close game on a Thursday night. So you still got to get up essentially in the morning. I mean, most people are still going to work, and they lost by a small margin to a team they really should have beat. What would you want to do? I mean, think about it. What would you want to do if you had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you had just watched that Steeler game and you're a big sports fan and they lost like they did? You're going to listen to the show and call in because you're frustrated or depressed, or you want to feel like people get you and how you're feeling in that sense. And that's part of the way that I think we capitalize is, we have the show to do just that. We create the conversations and we let people express themselves. And I think that makes people want to listen and then interact just like they did.
Well, I saw a lot of people too saying like they hoped to go to bed at halftime too. Like they had to stay up even later as well.
Yeah.
So you're a little crankier in that regard. I completely understand
but
that.
The second half was milked out too. The game didn't end until 11:30.
Yeah, it was a longer game too.
Yeah.
Because there was so much happened at the very end as well, and all of that. So that was great. The reaction. I love the reactions, and I don't know. I think you probably have seen what one Andrew Fillipponi said he would do if the Bengals defeated
yeah.
the Steelers.
I did hear about this as well.
So we're gonna have to see. Pony was saying he's always been true to his word. Do you think he's gonna follow through? I mean, you kind of have to at this point. I
Yeah.
saw it was getting some national attention. Some people at Barstool Sports were.
Millions.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people
On
saw
X, on X, millions of views. Yeah, right? Ouch. I mean, I don't even want to think about that. Crowley couldn't even stomach it this morning. We were talking about it. He's going to have to do it.
Well, and then it was, I mean, insult to injury last night. So the Steelers lose, and then Fillipponi, he's like, oh boy, and then he posts a picture of his
Yeah.
chest area, we'll say, and that really, I mean, it just added fuel to the fire. I think there's just a lot going on with that.
He said, everybody get on hold now, 2:00 tomorrow.
Well, we'll have to see how he's going to handle that. I have no idea. I would assume he'd have to do it. I think I saw a video where he was like, I'm going to do it earlier this morning, but I have no idea. They were supposed to talk about it on air at 2:00 as of Friday, so I don't know what's going to happen. I can only assume that he's going to have to pay it off.
Do you
But you
know-
have to know, like, if you're, and I love Andrew Fillipponi. I've gotten to talk to him a couple of different times, like, but this was such a Mike Tomlin spot to lose on the road Thursday night as a big favorite against a division rival. What was he thinking,
Well,
making that bet? What was he doing?
If we're bringing this to the sports broadcaster kind of realm for a second, let's just dive in real quick to why he might have done that.
Well, yeah,
Pony's thing is being very expressive and aggressive.
correct.
Now,
Yeah.
while we can all sit here and be safe and say, maybe, did we think the Bengals were really going to lose this one? I mean, think of all the circumstances. We can say that now. Andrew Fillipponi had enough confidence to put his nipples on the line right, to ensure that the Steelers were going to win this game, even though he's a notorious jinx too, and that's a whole other side
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
of this conversation. But think about that. He had enough confidence to go and get national media attention to say that he would sacrifice the stability of his nipples in such confidence that the Steelers would win the game. And that's what makes him unique as a broadcaster.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. But I do think part of it, he was feeling himself. He had that Browns. He was like, "We're gonna beat up on the Browns." Everyone was like, "No, Pody, you jinxed it." And he was right. And I think he was feeling himself.
Yeah, he was
He's like, "You know what? I'm
very-
gonna put my nipples on the line here."
I kind of hope that they let him at least numb it down. I know that was a thing where he wasn't supposed to raise it.
He
not?
said no.
Oh,
He
they're
said
not.
not numb and
I
juice,
know
right?
he said that.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're gonna do. But I know that he specified that he would get the nipples pierced with no numbing agents or other dilutions.
Wow. That's I know he said it, but I'm like, are they still gonna make him
Oh, he
do
said
it? I
he's
guess
gonna
so.
be true to his word.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna see the final product. I'm not gonna watch any of the needles get stuck anywhere.
No.
I can't
Yeah,
handle that.
no.
Crowley can't handle that. I'll celebrate when I see the fancy decorations pierced in there, but. I'm not
No,
gonna watch the
what
whole
do you
thing.
think? What do you think is the reason? I mean, he is notorious, like we said, as being a jinx. But his predictions, I've never seen anybody been so wrong so often with his picks.
You have to ask him. I don't know. I just know.
We gotta
that-
we gotta have him on at some point. I would love to. If Andrew Fillipponi, if you're watching, we'd love to have you on,
I'll
dude.
send this episode to him.
Please
Who knows if
explain
he'll
yourself.
see it, but
Because I mean, it's just crazy. It's like clockwork. And you don't want him if you're like he's done pit games. He's done all of them. You don't want him picking your team to win at all. Like you hope he doesn't. You hope he doesn't tweet about it at all. But you hope he doesn't pick your team to win because it's almost you're done.
You
You're
know-
gonna lose.
The first time I actually realized the jinx was real, and I guess it's notorious. It's been around for years before I noticed. But Pony and I went to the same baseball game, and I'll never forget. It was against the Arizona Diamondbacks in August of 2024. And if you remember, the Pirates were still
yes.
in,
Oh
in the
gosh.
race.
Yes.
And Pony had just tweeted out, he said, "I'm going to watch Skeens today." And everybody said, "No, don't." And so put it in a sports perspective, because I analyzed this as well. Here's me talking about baseball a lot. Teams started to be more patient with Skeens because they wanted to see if the umpires would call more balls and they could work walks. Because it's not easy to hit 100-mile-per-hour pitches, not easy to hit his slurve or sweeper, with the breaking pitch he throws. So that exact game, the Diamondbacks were in the race. They were trying to make it to the playoffs. They somehow, all of a sudden, they were one of the first teams that was like, we're just going to start taking pitches. And Skeens was walking people. And Skeens got pulled in the 5th inning. And on top of that, Derek Shelton was putting in Jake Woodford, if you remember him.
I do remember him, yeah.
And the Pirates were up by like 3, and I was like, why is Jake Woodford pitching here? When Jalen Beeks is in the bullpen, you got Jock Peterson, the lefty, up put in the lefty.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
It's a go-ahead home run. And then they bring in Jalen Beeks, and I'm like, Pony's here. That's why this happened. It doesn't make any nothing else would make sense. But
So Pony, I think now we're learning, is the reason the Pirates fell off that, because they were, like you said, they were right in it. They added the trade deadline, and immediately they collapse.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a brutal series. The Pirates were winning like all those games, and they ended up losing them all. And then, yeah, I mean, that's a revelation there, because we did not know that Pony had his fingerprints all over the Pirates' collapse.
Well,
he
also,
was on the third base side. I was on the Clemente wall, so we were both there.
but think of it this way too, like that had to have started the whole, because like at one point, I don't know if he was the most or not, but like Paul Skeens had the most missed strikes. Like he threw strikes that were called balls, like or something like that, like amongst the league leader of actual strikes that were called balls. So I don't know if that like started that like domino effect.
I don't know, because I was in the stadium. I didn't get to see any strike zones, but maybe.
Yeah.
So, we're going to be wrapping up in a little bit here. We've had a great conversation. I do want to talk about, what was your favorite team growing up? Were you a Pirates guy since you were baseball? Baseball was kind of your first sport. What were your teams and kind of your rooting interests early on?
So this one's kind of interesting. So I would always, let me think of how to tell this story. So the second video game I ever owned was on the PlayStation 2. And it was a baseball video game back when 2K Sports would make it. It was 2K5. And I would always play as the Pirates, and everybody that I would play, I would lose to. And I didn't understand why. I was only like 6 years old back then. So I was just like, oh, man, I'm not winning games. And so I still rooted for the Pirates, but all of a sudden I had found the New York Yankees, and I didn't know anything about them. I just saw him like, oh, Derek Jeter looks like a cool guy. Bernie Williams, okay, looks like a cool guy. Let me try this team instead. And I won. And I won a game, and I was like, ooh. So I'm like, how many other teams exist in this realm like that I could be that aren't the Pirates that might be able to help me win? But I stuck with the Yankees, and I was like, okay. So I actually became a Yankees fan because of that.
Wow.
And then I learned about the two leagues, and I'm like, okay, well, the Pirates and Yankees, back in that day, they didn't play each other as often. Interleague was very rare. So I was like, well, I could root for the Yankees, right? And, because they don't really play. And if they make it to the World Series, who knows? And we'll just have fun with it. But so the Pirates, I always say, are my National League team, and the Yankees are my American League team.
If the Pirates and the Yankees play in the World Series, who are you rooting for?
Well, the Pirates at this point, because the Pirates don't have 27 championships, and I'd like to see the Pirates win a World Series before I pass away. I think a lot of us would like to.
If you look at our episode history, we have a friend of ours, and his name is Brian Cashman, and he comes on our podcast. The general manager of the New York Yankees often comes on our podcast. You might want to look and see who it is, but
so he is. Yeah, Brian Cashman. He is a big Yankees guy.
We'll have to get you two connected or something sometime.
Yeah, because he was a big Yankees. We had him on a couple weeks ago after the Yankees narrowly defeated the Red Sox.
And he was very
confident. He was just dismissing the Blue Jays completely. Remember, we were kind of with them, and it was just crazy to see what happened to the Yankees in that series.
That was so disappointing. It's just a lot of lost potential. And the Blue Jays can hit. I'll give it to them. It's tough.
Yeah, what's been your biggest takeaway from this postseason thus far? I mean, what have you enjoyed the most? Other than the Yankees. Besides the Yankees
That's why you didn't enjoy that. That wasn't an enjoying thing.
No, baseball seems like everything's more interesting now. Everything seems more balanced than it used to. The wild card game had a little too much power. I like the way that they do it now with the 3-game series. And you don't have to travel for those games, right? The lower seed does not deserve home field advantage. That's fine. But give them more than one game, so it feels balanced there. The pitch clock through the regular season has been something I've liked. I think teams didn't really regulate themselves enough, and so you need a mechanism in there to do that. it's just you got exciting moments. There's a lot of exciting moments. There are moments that you can look at and go, okay, that's cool. We're watching history. Whereas before, it felt like there was a little too much with the wild card game, for example, too. There's a little too much showbiz behind it. There's a little too much like slow-paced nature to it. Like now everything feels like it's more like it's not necessarily fast-paced. It's not necessarily not enjoyable, but it feels like you've got a rhythm to baseball that hasn't been there in a long time. And because you have a rhythm, you also get these great moments that happen, whether it's pitchers with strikeouts, great fielding plays, hitters coming through clutch. The Blue Jays, for example, just when they play certain games, they just know how to hit. I mean, that's really exciting. A lot of just moments in rhythm.
And you can look at it this way too, like with the wild card series now being a thing, you look back, 10 years ago and you see the Pirates in the one game scenario where they faced Madison Bumgarner, who had that insane postseason run. Then the year after, they faced Jake Arrieta, who had probably the best pitching season in the 2010s. So you think, what if a 3-game series were to happen? Like, do the Pirates have the more deeper pitching staff? Like, there's a lot of questions.
And it's great questions, and that's something I've talked about. I mean, you can't go back and change the past, but you always just got to think, what if?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that 2015 team was really, really good.
They were
and
incredible.
A lot of people think they could have, made the World Series that year, but they were just in the division with the best team, the Cardinals, so they were relegated to the wild card. Yeah. And it's like, if you're hot at that moment, it's really whoever the starting pitcher is. And like we were saying, Bumgarner in 2014, Arrieta was just absolutely dominant. It was just really tough for the Buccos.
I do have a theory, and this is just my Callas random theories coming out of my head. I liked that the Royals won the World Series in 2015 because I feel like they deserved to win so much in 2014, but the Giants were just that good. So I feel like if any other team than the Mets would have played from the National League, like think about how many dominant teams got mowed down: the Pirates, the Cardinals, the Cubs, for the Mets to make it through, and the Mets weren't strong enough. So I feel like if any of those other teams would have prevailed, the Royals might not have won, but they might have been the team that deserved to win because of how well they constructed themselves that year after they lost one of the most historic series. That was in 2014.
Mm-hmm. Yo, yeah, that was a great series,
yeah.
And I became a Royals kind of fan. I'm a Pirates fan, sure, but I really, because that was my first experiences with baseball. And it was at Royals in 2014. I wanted them to win, and it was so tough. But you got to give credit to the Giants. And then in 2015, I was like, if the Pirates don't do it, I hope it's the Royals. And they ended up, and they did it in a really neat way, just with the small ball and with elite bullpen pitching and just really fundamentally sound play. But yeah, I do. I like the wild card, the 3-game series now too, for sure. But it was interesting. You're talking about the pitch clock. We all like the pitch clock. It definitely brings a rhythm to the game. But it was kind of funny. Was it last Friday night? The Mariners-Tigers game, 15 innings. I mean, it was kind of funny because we don't see that as much with the runner on second base. We don't see that at all now. But that was kind of a neat thing, just in a deciding game, that 15 innings. Because the pitch clock is great. 2.5-hour games is nice. But I think you do need to have a 4-hour game. It's every once in a while just to balance it out, because that's what baseball used to be. With some of those longer inning games.
Well, what do you think? Dodgers gonna repeat? That's how I feel right now, based on how their starting pitching is mowing everybody down.
Yeah, I thought the Brewers would be stronger, and they weren't, which is a shame. I would lean that way. I hope they don't, but
yeah, don't we all?
Yeah, that was tough because the Brewers. I mean, nobody expected them to do much this year at all. I mean, people are saying this is the Cubs division, and everything, and the Cubs are really good. But the Brewers, every year they find a way. And this year was do they have a chance? And I was thinking the Phillies might have a chance too. And the Dodgers, people were kind of overlooking them, I think, a little bit. And they're so talented. I mean, that's what helps when you have Shohei Ohtani and unlimited money to spend on players. But
yeah.
I think a lot of baseball fans are saying anybody but the Dodgers. And it's almost like they're an inevitability at this point.
Yeah, not a fan of that. But so it will be.
Anything else? Anything else you want to talk about? Jake Bell, you got anything over there?
I think we covered a lot. So.
Well, thank you, Nicholas Harry Callas, for coming on today. We really appreciate it. I'm really glad I got to meet you at the NWLA tournament. That was a great time, and I was like, oh, it's somebody at 93. Oh, Nicholas Harry Callas. And I was like, is that the guy in that ghost video? the haunted, and it all came together. Really glad you could join us today. It was, because we're trying to get more guests on our podcast, because the past couple of years we've been, kind of just every week, the three of us doing stuff, but we love having guests on, and you were a blast.
50.
Episode 50.
Oh, yeah.
This is worth the half-century mark, half a hundred
Yeah,
mark.
this was more than great for episode 50.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for coming on. We had a blast. This was great. A lot of different conversations. We went a lot of different ways. I think even more than we thought coming in. So thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
93.7 The Fan, mornings, 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
Harry
Wake
Callas.
up. Wake up.
Yes.
Go to bed early. Wake up. Listen. I didn't even know that 5 a.m. You have a 40-minute thing where you do. I gotta wake up now too.
And then Doran, they're 6 to 9 or 6 to
5:40 to 10.
5:40 to 10. Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.